Hello, good morning or good afternoon. We're getting into it a little bit later today. We had to take a brief detour today. We're getting off of the train of which was the train that is the trying to save the atheists. We're getting off that train today for that particular task because I realized in some of my research and prayer and meditation that actually that group of let's call them science-oriented atheist types um, who tend to have moved away from religion just as a strict policy that they won't change despite any logic because of something that is needs to be spoken of more, that is not talked about enough, which is the balancing and the weight and the shifting of the sands between the big three. You guys know what the big three are? The big three religions, the shifting of them. We need to look at these for a second. We're talking about Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all working together because they all have the same route and the same root and the same route. Root, Route, and probably a couple others. But the point is that they're all connected. Okay, through literally the stories and the blood of the stories of the characters in the story, and yet there's all this fighting and everything. It's so ridiculous. Okay, so I'll give you a layman's term because that's what it is here. We're just talking about a Catholic church parishioner who lives in the forest and talks to birds and stuff. Like, right? So like one of those guys. So we're just from that guy's vantage point. Okay, so you got Christianity who, okay, they followed the Abrahamic Jewish tradition, which was about this God who we didn't really know quite well because we can't know God, and we wondered about what he was, and we tried to abide by his rules, and we tried to follow his rules, but we never quite could do it just right the way he wanted. So they sent Jesus to create a new covenant, to show us how to do it right. Everybody with me? Okay, so now those Jews who walked the desert, they were all related. The Islam people, all the people that were related, they were all walking together, following the same rules. But see, now it all split when Jesus showed up. It all split. And so because it was what they call a new covenant. So there's a new set of rules. It was like, let's call it, it was what Judaism in its original form eventually became. And so now when there was that split, okay, the first big split, okay, the death of Christ. So now you have people today that follow the Jewish faith that still claim blood and ties to people who theologically are connected to the Christians, yes, and that's the claim, and it always has been. But in terms of who their idea of the true God is, it's very different. They adopted the theological position that Jesus was not accepted. And so that should not be ignored. It cannot be ignored. It should be, right? And so that's just part of the story. So you have those two. So the Christianity and the Judaism. But see, now, do you guys know about the roots and the roots of Islam? Have you guys? So I didn't really know much about it at all. But see, now the stories that I've heard, I'm starting to research and learn a little bit more about the Quran. Is that the fundamentals are that, again, that the stories from the Old Testament and the Torah, which is the Jewish book that the Old Testament and the Bible also is based off of. So now they view those stories as being sacred wisdom, and they also view Jesus as being a prophet, a divine prophet, and a brother. And the only difference in the belief about that is whether it's the deity aspect, the Son of God aspect, but that the wisdom is true and it's accepted, and it's fought and died, and they've fought and died for. And they've even written at some point in their book that if things are confusing, to just go back and follow Jesus and whatever is in the New Testament, things like this. But see, now that religion came about, I think it was around the 700 ADs, where there was a lot of destabilization and movement and power shifting, and humans creating new ways to structure how the religions were going to be organized, including how the politics are integrated into the spiritual process of just humans operating as a civilization. So it's just normal human stuff, basically. And so there was a shift towards a monotheistic trend to where it's like, oh, everything's one God now, okay, right? So you follow? And so that's when Islam came out. And so during a violent, dangerous time. And so the origin of that prophet Muhammad was a brother who loved Jesus and respected Jesus and loved God and abided by the rules and followed the rules. But he also lived a very violent life. And from what I understand, there was it was this, at least the story was that it was a violent death, and there's many ways to which this could happen. It was a violent time, right? But that's the story. But see, now the point is that the love is there. The love is there. The love of God is there, enough to die and to write a book. You see. So now when you look at these all these three religions, they form a form of triangle, of a triangular form. So what are they doing? They're pushing air. They're pushing differential pressure, differential spiritual pressure, differential spiritual air pressure. That's what it is. And then you get the politics involved. And now between the three words, Jew, Christian, and Muslim, between those three words, okay, you've got those three, and now there's so many classes or groups of people that are lumped into each of those words. Like, for example, like Christian, you could have Catholics, you could have all the different denominations of Christian, Orthodox, and all the rest. You name them all. Okay, now Islam, you've got folks that are practicing, the religion of it, but then there are the extremist ones that are so violent and they're killing and stuff like that. So see, now they're disobeying. They're disobeying the first rule, the first commandment. And so now you got, man, with Judaism, the Jew, it's even more confused. It's even more confused because you've got, this person who is the Jew, who says that they love and they're good and they're religious and they're spiritual. That's true, and they adopt this tradition through their family, and so they're children of God as well, of course. And you can't point your fingers, even though they reject Jesus, and so they've created a new God completely that's separate from the old God now, because according to the story of both of the two other religions, okay, see, there was the Abrahamic God who's and then Jesus comes down and is teaching there, and with the new covenant and everything, that's a unification of the idea of God, but with a strict refusal of that idea, a strict refusal of Jesus. Okay, if you guys know the story, it was the priests, the Jewish priests at that time, who were the ones who were shoring up all of the grievances with the guy over preaching in a way that was, in their view, disrespecting the law of the Jews at the time, which was to give more attention or give a brighter spotlight on the true mission of the clergy, which is to take care of the spiritual needs of the people and not necessarily spiritual needs of the temple. Okay, so that was kind of like the gist of it, and they didn't like it, and so they get the Romans involved, and the guy's not a bad guy, and now it's like, now they're saying he's like a political, some kind of political, rogue or something like this, and then now he's in trouble and he's getting crucified, and he goes there, and Jesus goes there willingly. But don't forget, he went there willingly of his own free will. Jesus knew what he was doing. Okay, that's the story of the Christians. So even if you have a religion that says, no, our religion is not going to be based on the infinite love and grace of God, it's not going to be about that. It's going to be about works, and it's going to be about conditional love, because if you got to do all the works all the time and obey the laws to get into heaven according to the Jewish faith, and you have to have that, okay, too, because it's a human way to think. We're humans, right? And so the love has to be extended to all three. But the problem is it isn't, because politics are involved and money's involved, and so people, in power that create the image that the people see, they generate, through a form of genjutsu, right? Which is, some people call it fake news, and some people call it genjutsu, and some people call it marketing, and some people call it, campaigning. Okay, right? These are different words they use for the same thing, which is to confuse these stories so they can get people pointing the fingers at each other, so that they can manipulate them and control them through fear. So that was the mission today, was just to give a brief talk. Where we go, 10 minutes, well done, about those three religions and how they are, from the perspective of a Catholic, a naturalist person who is just so simple that all he can see is like differential air pressure, because there's so much knowledge out there. It's like, right, it's too much. Got to keep it simple. Fundamentals. Like, yeah.